This is going to be the fall of the Islamic Republic. So the Islamic Republic, knowing that it's this is it's now or never, it's not going to leave anything that has for later. Like everything that it has, it's not just going to be like, oh, okay, let's just leave this for another day. They're just going to be able. If Israel attacks it alone, like when you saw missiles coming at Israel during the 12-day war, they were trying to they weren't going all out because they can't just empty all their missiles because then they will have no missiles left. But now, if they know that this is it, they're going to, if they don't use everything they have, it's going to be the end of them. They're just going to empty everything they have on Israel. So I think even though Israel's security system is very advanced and very good, this level of attack on Israel will overwhelm Israel. And that's why I think Israel requires American support in this.
I'm wondering about dirty bombs and why they aren't generally used. What prevents Iran from having supplied Hezbollah with dirty bombs to fire at us? Islamic Republic from supplying Hezbollah with dirty bombs like this whole time in the past several years. Like I'm guessing that there's something really impractical about it if it's
You
never
know
been
what
done.
is Israel war doctrine towards dirty bombs?
I do not know.
Okay, so I pray for the day that we won't find out together.
Yeah, I think that's right because I think that because that's such a red line for the whole world that if they try, first of all, it's easy to detect. I think if they try to do something like that, and if they do something like that, the whole world will basically be uniting against them. So that would be a suicide. That would be like a suicidal for them. All right.
All right, so we have now me, and after me we have Moshe, Cat Lady, Dajjal, Jeffrey, BT, and Shauna. A few points, Richard. The first point is I wanted to say to you, Armin, I wanted to say that after hearing Reza Pahlavi today and with his messaging to the world, I think that you are doing a hell of a job because you pretty much nailed it with your messaging. With the stuff that you spouse out is very accurate according to what he said, and he's like the leader of the revolution from the outside. So you nailed it without talking, without bridging, nothing, which is impressive.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, yeah, man, yeah.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
that's very good. And the carrier, the specific location doesn't matter. The use for the carrier and why it's coming, it doesn't matter. Maybe it's because of the Qataris thing that they tell you. Maybe not. Maybe it's for another thing that I'm not going to say because we have strict education about this in Israel, so I'm not talking. But I do have an hypothesis. Maybe it's for something else. Maybe you don't know what it's for. Okay? Maybe it doesn't necessarily means that it needs to be on the coasts of Iran because it's a vessel that has a long range of work. It can work on a very long range. It doesn't need to be where the fighting is. So it doesn't matter, and it's not very important. Not need to talk about it too much. Help is on the way. The rest doesn't matter. Let's say that what I'm seeing, and I'm trying to say as much as I think that is healthy, I think that you see delay in the attack. I think that they pretty much set the attack, and I do think that they set the attack and they delayed it. I don't think that it's a bluff. I think that it continued as a little bit of a game, but I don't think that it's a bluff. I think that there was an honest preparation to attack, and I think that something made them change their mind, or maybe something that should have happened didn't happen, and so they didn't attack. Now you try and understand from that whatever you want, but maybe something that Israel prepared didn't happen, and we thought it would happen, and maybe some of the strategy was built upon the thing that did not happen in Israel. We don't know, but I think that maybe. That's what I think. About the pressure on Trump from the Gulf states, you can't know for certain that the pressure from the Gulf state is not purely political because they can't just cooperate with all these Westerns and Trump and just help beating on the Muslim world it doesn't look good. So they have to say something. For example, Qatar has many investments in Iran. They run some of their investments, I think, or something like that, or manage them, right? Or something like that. I'm not sure. So maybe there's some interest from Qatar, but is it? I mean, is it enough to make President Trump fold? I don't know. Maybe not. This whole thing could be a hoax and just a way to juggle the balls around so he won't focus on one. It might be that they do strongly reject it. You can't know for certain. There's a lot of cross messagings and things that don't really settle. I saw today about 14 different reasons why the attack didn't happen today. Every reason had 3 subcategories with agendas to why it didn't happen yet. And when I smell too much bullshit, I say, you don't want me to miss the main point. You don't want me to see the main target. Okay, I see that. And I have some trust in the process. Now, I don't live in Iran, so I have in my house in Tel Aviv with heat. Of course, it's easier for me to say it. And I hope for the Iranian, if they watch us, we grew to 3,000 people more. If there are any, you are in our hearts, you are in our minds, and you will pull through it, Javid Shah.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you, Armin. I just wanted to circle back on the attacks, if they're not coming from Saudi Arabia or Qatar. We saw in the 12-day war Israel had with Iran that they were able to fly from Israel to Iran directly. Is there a way, or why would not the US be able to do the same with refuelers and whatnot? Is that a possibility?
Well, attacks from Israel direction is likely, right? Especially because the airspace above Iraq and Syria is now completely available to Israel. But I think that that's not enough. Okay, I think they need also to cover all of this from the Persian Gulf as well. I think maybe given the scale of the attack that they are planning, maybe again none of this is for certain, and also how swift and overwhelming they want it to be. I think they want American involvement from the Persian Gulf in addition to whatever is coming from the Israeli side.
Something closer by, like an aircraft carrier. Or
Yes.
I'm also thinking that maybe the, like Asi said, that it's a lot of public politics with Qatar and Saudi Arabia, so they don't want
Yeah.
to attack from them publicly, but maybe eventually they would use their airspace. Or
They need to show
It,
that
mi-
at
it,
least
mi-
they try to object.
that's kind of what I'm saying. But eventually
it
they
also
could end
be
up using it.
it also could be okay. Let's get a little bit
Good.
conspiratorial
That's the
here.
key.
Yeah, that's where the territory
It,
we're in
it,
now.
it could, no, just one second. It could also be the fact that they might be attacking like in 5 minutes, but they have created the perfect situation where it looks like they're waiting for the aircraft carriers to show up, and then all of a sudden, the Islamic Republic thinks that's when it's going to happen and is preparing for that, and all of a sudden it happens in 5 minutes from now. So it could also be a misdirection.
That's actually what I was thinking. That could be it. It's a kind of ruse. Wait 10 days and then it's going to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's all.
Yeah.
Javid Shah, thank you.
I just
Javid
wanted to
Shah.
say something small about the carrier in the 10 days. It doesn't mean she has to be in there in the first day, because it's going to be kinetic, like 1 wave, 2 waves, 3 waves. So maybe they need it for the 4 or 5 days, so it doesn't matter it come late.
Maybe. Okay.
Yes, hi. I have 3 or 4 points. It depends how you look at it. First point is Kof is not a good news. It's not good news no matter who he speaks to. He can speak to Pahlavi and just later say Pahlavi said this, that. Just as a proof of it, you can say how he spoke about Hamas later after he spoke about them. Like he's not. I don't know what he's doing in this role in the first place. He's not fit for this role. I don't get the entire thing of like not allowing the US to use the Air Force. Can you imagine like if Israel did it for something? Can you imagine like
Air
what there
base.
is air base? Oh, but I saw it's also the airspace, not to go above it. Can you imagine anything like that happening in Israel or actually also in Jordan, like something like that? Why would the US even allow it? Why would it even be out in the press? It doesn't make any sense. It can show 2 points, in my opinion. One is that the US has become somewhat weakened in facing those countries, which I'm not sure I believe. And the second one can be maybe a distraction. Maybe they will attack exactly from there, and they want the Iranian government not to believe and not to prepare to this direction. Is it possible that the US realized that maybe taking down the IRGC was harder than it seems? So, not as easy as they thought, maybe like that?
I mean, it's not as easy as other people think, but I think US intelligence knows exactly how difficult it's going to be. But I think it is, you're right that it is more difficult than other people think, not because they have really powerful weapons or because they're really organized or because they have a lot of, it's mostly because they're all over the place, you know, and they have a lot of tentacles and they could cause mayhem just because they're all over in the Middle East and they have a lot of different small groups here and there. So it's really hard to see if a lot of these people, I mean, the good thing is that a lot of these people might just abandon fighting for the Islamic Republic as soon as they see that the ship is sinking, but they
Mm.
might not, because as long as the dollars are flowing, the fact that they are bringing people from Iraq and giving them dollars suggests that the ideological loyalty is not working. You know what I mean? Like, it is, to me, it suggests that they need money people rather than like the people who are like, oh, I will give my life for Mehdi. They're like, maybe not. Maybe it's not worth fighting for the falling regime, because or else they wouldn't be handing out so much money to people to come and attack the people. So it seems like on the ideological front, it's not working, and they need to find people, mercenaries that are willing to kill for money. Yeah, that's a good one.
But
Yeah.
I think they may be looking at some worst case scenarios as well.
Yeah, because small groups of people, even the ones who are loyal ideologically, they could cause a lot of harm if they're all over the place, right? So it doesn't take that many people, some who are dedicated, to cause a lot of harm if they think that this is it and they have to give it all they got. So you have to basically neutralize all of that as much as possible. I mean, think about it. ISIS, for example, at their height, had only 40,000 members, right? So imagine how many years of chaos that caused and how hard was it to
Why?
just,
Why was it so long? Why with ISIS? Why actually?
well, because they don't have nothing to lose, right? If you're fighting against the states, you could punish them because they have a lot to lose. But when you have nothing to lose and you're ideological, then other deterring abilities doesn't work against you because your mind is in a parallel universe. You're playing by a different whole set of rules. You don't mind dying. You don't have a country that you could lose. You don't have an economy that you're worried like, oh my God, I shouldn't do this because my economy will collapse. Other countries have, like, if you're fighting against another country, like, oh, I will punish you here. I will hit your factory and then your economy will suffer. Like, oh my God, we can't do that because they're going to hit our factory. But if you're ISIS, you don't give a
Yeah, but
shit about the factory.
40,000, you
Like,
can
I
kill
don't.
them all.
No, but it's hard. 40,000 people who are like on the ground, mixing the population. I mean,
Mm,
if they could, then how did they last for so many years, right? So obviously, you can't.
right. Okay.
Right.
And about the countries, what I said,
What was it? Remind
the
me.
countries not allowing the US.
I think it seemed like Qatar already had this agreement with United States that you could have your base here, but don't use it to attack my neighbors because then my neighbors are going to attack me. So maybe it seemed like, I'm not sure. It seemed like that was already part of the agreement. I could look into that later, right? So I think US already has it. It seems like US has already the agreement with Qatar that, okay, give us this airbase, we will use it when we can, but we will not attack your neighbors with it. Because think about it, that wouldn't make sense for Qatar, right? Like, yeah, I'm putting this airbase here, so I'm a friend of the United States. So by being a friend with the United States, I get more security. If the airbase is being used in a way that I'm going to become the target, this cooperation with the United States doesn't make any sense to me, for me anymore, for my security purposes. Why would I have a U.S. Why would I agree to have a U.S. airbase on my country if it actually is going to reduce my safety rather than increasing it?
Why would
Yeah, but
Somaliland
why are we
agree to
not
it?
seeing why are we not seeing more like reactions in the US public like for this stand they're taking? I wonder. Okay, I've taken too long so far, so
Thank you, Cat Lady.
Thank
Rajal?
you.
Somaliland is gonna rock, I think. We're gonna cheer star.
Rajal?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, is it
Yeah.
me? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So, guys, I was just going to ask you, I mean, I know you said, yeah. I know,
Your audio is a little bit low quality. I can't. It's really hard to listen to.
can you hear me now?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to ask you, I mean, I know you said your dad was doing good. Have you spoken to him directly
No.
yourself? Okay. But you know he's good.
I just got.
Okay.
I got a voice message from him forwarded to me.
Okay.
Well, he put that out in general for all three of his sons.
Cool. Yeah, I was just curious. Yeah, glad to hear that. What do you think about the idea that Israel may have been behind stalling the attack because of something? So they're not ready or anything. Like, what do you think that means exactly? If you got an idea about it, because it's interesting that they of all people would stall it.
What is Israel waiting for?
Like, what do you think that might be about, or do you think it was Israel who stalled the attack because they weren't ready? And if so, how? Because it's interesting that they of all people would be for that.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we don't know if that report is true. So that report could be true, fake, or true but a misdirection. So we don't know that. If that report is true, the guess would be that they needed more time to prepare for it, or as Essie said, something that they did. There was something that they were waiting for happened, didn't happen, and they need to go prepare for whatever they were planning to. So we don't know. But what I do know is that it's very likely that eventually we will know all of this at some point once all of this is done. And it would be very interesting to come back and see which one of these guesses was right and which one of them were wrong. Like once everything, because once the attacks are over, like in a couple of months, I'm pretty sure they will come and explain why they were waiting, what was the reason behind all of the delays, and we're going to get a lot of details, and it's going to be very interesting to come here and go over them and then compare it with what we were thinking at this time.
Yeah, definitely. No doubt about it. It will be very interesting.
Can I push Najal a bit and I tell him, I feel like you start with the consumption that Israel, we are all soldiers waiting to kill. I'm sleeping with my RPG, waiting with the helicopter in my bed. We are not like this. Is
You're not.
the assumption of this? Like we are always ready. We are full power. Our stocks are full.
Hila, I mean, I didn't assume that
We
about
are.
any. I did
No,
assume that
what
about
are you?
I
Are you
really,
crazy?
I really thought
RPG is
Hila.
old. Who uses RPG? Get
No,
this
but
stuff.
I really did think Hila has at least one or two RPGs under her bed.
Yeah, I have
No
an
RPG.
But I feel like the assumption around the world from people, it's not like if they are not attacking, it has to be a reason because they are always prepared, always full of stocks, and everything is like we're just dying to get a command to leave to combat. I mean, so just when we think about it, we are just normal people, you know. All the soldiers are normal.
We're gonna take Hila's picture and we're gonna turn her into a Rambo version. Let's make an AI picture of Hila like the
and
soldier.
Israelis are not normal. No, 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 no.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, our combat situation is that Krav Maga, for example, I never learned how to do the first fight. I only know how to protect myself from any direction and every fight to the second hit, and then I will take the.
Guys, don't mess
But
with
I don't know
Hila.
how to start the punch. Nobody teach me this.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. Now we had Jeffrey.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna touch base on some of the points that were brought up real quick. So, with regards to the radiological dispersion device, somebody asked as an alternative means to hit the state of Israel. I mean, we looked at that post-strike, post-12-day war. And while it's true that radiological dispersion devices lower the entrance barrier to obtain because doesn't have the same level of technological requirement of making an actual bomb, it has higher logistics challenges because regarding implementation, because you have to put all this fission, like this radiological material around your explosive and all this other stuff. Not saying it isn't a issue or that the Mullah regime or their buddies don't look at things like that, but I'm just saying there's some operational issues there. With regards to why things are changing, I mean, again, it's a complex adaptive system. Everything's kind of moving. They have all these moving parts, what the Mueller regime's doing, what Putin's doing, Chicom's are doing, what we're doing. And so everybody's engaging in competitive adaptation to try and outguess the other person. Carriers are being moved because they provide more options, especially when it comes to sustained air operations. The average aircraft carrier, well, Nimitz can surge max sorties of about 240 a day with a range between 300. This is all open source stuff. 300 and like 750 nautical miles. The payload between 2 and 5,000 pounds. So it's fully suppressing, like to Armin's point, like the Mueller regime has like dispersed their assets. They're increasing, which increases the minimum entrance barrier regarding a successful strike, with success defined as fully suppressing Mueller retaliatory capability post strike, which is why certain countries are very much, have some concern. And the Mueller regime has proxies. As far as Witkoff is concerned, so his issue is he's a businessman, so his natural predisposition leans towards economic interdependence and non-intervention. So there's concern. I'm just giving a little background on that. As far as what Armin said surrounding Hezbollah and Mueller regime activating its proxies, that's true. There's an issue of attribution. You don't know. It's not like, I fire a missile from point X and I can track it via our Sibir's low and you can see exactly where it launched from, exactly where it's going and that kind of thing. I mean, bad guys are hiding in they do all kinds of things to hide their face and all this other stuff. They're also internally motivated terrorists that are pseudo-theological in nature, again, to Armin's point, which means their elasticity is very low because they frame their position of gain or loss metaphysically. It's not like you can hold Moscow hostage and deter like Soviet action to some degree. And that's, of course, discounting like fog of war, threat miscalculation, or how they frame the position of gain or loss. And the last issue is with regards to what Armin and Goldie's doing. I sent you out those emails. I don't know if you used them. If you did, hopefully they're helpful. The quality of how you were reporting today has definitely jumped up a lot. And that definitely helps with the issue of anchoring in the news cycle because you have these competing issues, not the least of which is to that other wonderful lady, like why are Americans not fully focused on the activities of brave Iranian protests against the Mullah regime? Because you have other competing issues, although they have a lot of overlap, not the least of which is ICE protests that are in many ways being amplified by any number of U.S. adversaries, from Putin to the Chicoms to indeed the Mullah regime.
Okay, hi. So, question. We saw the last time around when Iran sent over all their little fireworks to Israel. We saw the UK stepping in. We saw, whether directly or intelligence, it was UK, Jordan, Saudi, and UAE even helped out some. Is that pretty indicative of what we should see or expect to see this time around? Or do you think that anything has changed? Will we see fewer or more allies in helping if Iran does decide to send missiles to Israel again?
Are you asking if Saudi Arabia and Jordan will be helping?
The air defense that we saw before will see it again.
Well, in
That's a good-
Jordan, it was more
Yeah.
protecting their own airspace. Whatever got into their airspace, they
But
stopped.
that's what they say. They also want to show that they're being
Nothing
useful.
was aimed towards Jordan. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, Jordan was safe. If they were participating, they were like, "Oh, we're just protecting ourselves," but they're also telling the U.S., "Look at us, we're being so helpful." At the same time, so, so I do think that given that this is here's the thing: Saudi Arabia hates the Islamic Republic, but they also fear them. So when they want the United States and Israel not to attack the Islamic Republic, is because they fear what the Islamic Republic is going to do to them as a result. But if they know that the attack is on, again, this is my guess. If they think like, okay, we try to avoid it, but it seems like it's happening. So now that it's happening, I think they would be motivated to just like, then let's finish the job. You know what I mean? So given that, if I was them, I would be like, okay, let's just go all in and just make sure that the Islamic Republic does not live another day to come and then retaliate if it survives this. Then I think they might be actually more cooperating than before. Maybe.
Sure, and I can assume that, these other countries coming out and having the Shah in for talks or recognizing him in different ways. I mean, that's a huge signal. That's not nothing. That is a huge signal to other countries around the world. Like, okay, we recognize as well, this is over with. We're moving on to the next girlfriend. We're seeing other people. So, that influence as well, I think heavily what other countries are willing to do.
Right.
Jordan for perfect example. Yeah. Also, my last point, someone in the typed out chat was talking about the USS Liberty and its range. I don't remember the numbers anymore because I had looked it up and I lost my chat, but it was like 300 miles for one thing, 500 miles for something else, 700 miles for something else. So it'll be
Doesn't
really interesting to see once they get, 700 miles radius away, when is that clock? Because, that's when they would start becoming
USS
effective. Lincoln, I'm sorry.
Liberty was the one that was the
Yes, I know.
anti the anti-Semites keep pointing to. Right. Okay.
Yes, yeah. See, it's stuck in my brain. They keep on. Lincoln, thank you.
Wait, what was the question? I think Jeffrey would be able to answer that last question, right?
Yeah, I think he wants to.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
So like I kind of touched on the
Don't be too accurate, I think.
this is all open source stuff. So the Nimitz class aircraft carrier, the USS Lincoln, that's en route to the Med from Southeast Asia, the general range of its fighter aircraft is between like 300 and 750 miles, depending on which particular airframe you're talking about and how loaded down with ordnance it is. You can cut some of the ordnance down to increase the range, something that Israel did because of the 1,200-mile range from Israel to Iran. They would put drop tanks on instead of bombs. They can surge its sorties to about 200 sorties a day. That's quite a bit. And you're figuring 2,000 to 5,000 pounds of ordnance, depending on the airframe and how far you want to go and all of that. The question you're making, though, is okay, so you don't have to be parked right off the coast of Israel in the Med for them to do something. So, yeah, that's a very, very fair point. I'm pretty sure our adversaries are looking at that as well, including the Mullah regime. Hopefully that was able to help. I had to say something, Ozzy. I know the RPGs suck. The updated ones sure caused a lot of havoc in the 2006 Hezbollah IDF war, right? That was given to the Hezbollah, by the way, by Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state. And it was the mullahs that received them and then sent them to the Alawite regime, who walked it down the northern border between Syria and Lebanon. I actually did some of the discussion for the DOD on the targeting that Israel did to cause a disruption in that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's because they used. I don't want to diverge, but because they use thermobaric heads. Never mind.
Can I get some clarification? It's again, these enemy sources are going to have this information too. This isn't going to be a secret, but everybody's looking at different countdowns. It's been this many hours since this, whatever. At what point, I don't know where they are in the waters. At what point is that 700-mile radius, 500 miles going to start closing in?
When it will, we will know it, I think, and it will be great.
Yeah, we don't know. The answer is we don't know. Okay.
Shauna? Shauna?
She opened her mic, but there's no audio coming. Shana, if you're speaking, there's no audio coming through.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, husband. Thank you,
Okay.
Shana's husband.
Yeah. Hey, I did it myself this time.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I could this time. Okay.
But 99% of the time you would be correct. So
Okay.
what I was going to say is that a lot of the media in the United States focuses on ICE, number one, but secondarily, there's a lot of media when it comes to international stuff, not so much on Iran, but on Greenland and France. And now France is threatening America to they're like, well, this is an act of war if you try to take Greenland, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if this has anything to do with the Middle East. I'm just kind of opening that up as a discussion of why this is a focus, because France is one of those locations that some of these terrorists and leaders are threatening to go to. And I don't think that these things are completely separated from each other, but I don't know. It's just something that I've kind of been thinking about, and
So-
given the media is so focused on Greenland and France and Denmark.
I think the old world model that we have right now, the world order that we have right now, which is respecting so many of these standards that we have in place that has been working since World War II. It seems like, given that a new Cold War is about to come, we're moving to a new framework. We're moving into a world order, which, because Europe's really relies on the current system, they are trying to push back against the movement towards this new system. And the new system is basically the understanding that Russia, China, and United States are basically going to be at it for more having more dominance and more influence over more areas, and it's a zero sum game between all three of them. A lot of the standards that used to not be violated are going to be violated, because if basically if United States doesn't go take these certain areas, then the understanding is that Russia or China will. So if you are going to try to play nice and be like, oh, we're going to abide by these standards and these rules, then, well, China and Russia are basically going to come and eat your lunch. So basically, playing nice is not going to work if you want to make sure that you're not going to fall behind Russia and China. We are at a very key point in history, not just because of geopolitical reasons, but because of technological reasons as well. And it's basically winner take all mentality. Like, you need a lot of the world is what for technologically to be ready for what's about to come. You are going to need a lot of energy and a lot of rare earth metals. And so having influence in more areas where you could get more energy and more rare earth minerals and other resources is going to determine who's going to be a superpower and who's not, right? So Europe is basically behind all of this, and it's not going to catch up. Is Europe is becoming more and more irrelevant compared to these. This is why people think Russia eventually is going to become successful in taking over Ukraine and maybe even some other Eastern European countries. And some people's understanding is that, yeah, at some point Taiwan is going to be taken over by China. And United States just needs to make sure that it's also working on making sure that it has at least control over the areas that it needs to have control over, so that it manages to remain the superpower, right? So that's what regarding Greenland, Venezuela, and some other Latin American countries, and basically the Western Hemisphere. That's the reason why you see that Trump is pushing for all of this. But also, when it comes to Iran, it's very, very helpful for United States if before all of this starts, Iran becomes a U.S. ally. So,
Right.
given that we're moving into a Cold War phase right now, having Iran, like, basically the connection between the Middle East, which is the connection between the three continents, being a place where Russia and China have an influence, switching that into a U.S. ally, the Islamic Republic has
Right.
proven to be a major, causes a lot of trouble to Europe. Like, it's willing to sell drones to Russia, work with to sell oil cheap to China, threaten Europe with missiles. So switching that to pro-US is going to be a huge advantage for the US when it comes to the Cold War that is about to come.